So I think, you see, here, you see, it is very important to know, you see, two levels of spirituality. One spirituality with faith.
Religious faith.
Religious faith. One spirituality without religious faith, but simply be a warm-hearted person. Try to be a warm-hearted person. So that's, then also now with this, you see, the idea of non-violence, very much. Once we, you see, cultivated the compassionate, mental attitude developed here, then non-violence automatically comes. Non-violence is not just a diplomatic word. Non-violence is, I think the action or act of compassion. Compassion is here, non-violent action comes. Hatred here, violence very often comes. So now, you see, look, let us think about violence and non-violence. As I mentioned earlier, so long we human beings remain there, conflict, disagreement, different views, always there, that we can take for granted. So now, if you follow or if you use the violent method in order to reduce the disagreement or conflict, then we have to I think violence every day, and then the result I think horrible. So therefore, you see, and also through violence, it is impossible, you see, to eliminate disagreement. Through using violence, even more resentment, more dissatisfaction come. So naturally, non-violent means dialogue. Use our language, human language. So dialogue means compromise. Listen others' view, respect others' right, and in the spirit of reconciliatory, there is real solution of, you see, to oppose, conflict or disagreement. Half. Not 100% sort of 100% winner, 100% loser. Not that way, but you see, half. So that is the practical way. That's the only way. Now today, I think the whole world now becoming smaller and smaller. Almost, you see, the concept of we and they, I think, gone, outdated. Our interest and their interest, if independently existed, then there is possibility to win 100% our side, to lose 100% the other side. But since reality heavily depend on one another, my interest, our interest, and others' interest very much mixed. So how can, under that circumstance, how can, you see, you gain 100% victory? Impossible. So you see, half, share. If possible, 60% this side, 40% other. So otherwise it's impossible. So therefore, you see, that is, I think, now today's the real world's reality become like that. So that's, I think, the basis of my own way of approach, middle way of approach. We can't, you see, get some kind of 100% victory Tibetan side. In any, whether we like it or not, Tibetan future much depend on China. So therefore, you see, in the spirit of conciliatory, you see, they half their interest, half our interest. Through that way, genuine development, you see, can be possible. So it's a compromise, whether even we don't like it, but there's no other way except compromise. So therefore, that's I think the true non-violence means talk, share others' view, others' feeling, others' right, and through that way solving the problem. So sometimes I express, I telling people, this century, 20th century, one aspect, almost I think, from the looking one aspect, I think we can call this century of bloodshed, century of war. So result, more conflict, more bloodshed, more weapon. So therefore, now from the basis of, from the experience which we learned, which humanity learned from this century, now I think we should look, the next century should be century of dialogue. Non-violent principle may be make available everywhere. And that cannot come through prayer. Just sitting here, pray. That's impossible. Work, effort. So thank you, that's about my talk. Thank you.
The first question, is meditation essential to become a Buddhist?
Oh yes. To say this not sufficient. Rosary and recite Om Mani Padme is not sufficient. And some chanting or some prayer. I think sometimes I do feel chanting and recite some mantra and contented. I think this is deceiving us. Right?
It's actually deceiving oneself.
I think it's deceiving oneself. If you look Buddha statue, no rosary. Buddha remain like this, meditation. So I think we must know. I think we must, remind the key thing. And logically, the method or the way of approach of Buddha Dharma is transform mind. So transformation of mind, not through, the Buddha's blessing, but through one's own effort. Therefore, Buddha always say, you are your own master. So the mental training is meditation, analytical meditation and single pointedness of meditation. These two things combine.
Next question. How can you show compassion to someone who is hurting and manipulating a friend? Will it have the effect to stop them or encourage them further?
Now, non-violent, compassionate, does not mean you bow down. The sense of tolerance and patience, here I think the real sense, you not let out anger. That's, I think, the essence of tolerance. Tolerance does not mean restrain response. Of course, you see, first, you always see restrain, harming other. That's the foundation as a Buddhist practice. But then someone take advantage. You see, that humility way, that humbleness, or that Shiva.
Of course, refraining from harming others is the fundamental Buddhist ethical principle. And say, if someone were to take advantage of that and try to exploit you, then they think if let the others take advantage on you, then their wrongdoing will increase. As a result, that person ultimately have to face negative consequences. So now, out of compassion, out of concern of that person,
Now take countermeasure. So you see, in reality, same countermeasure, but different motivation. And you see, patience and tolerance should not consider as signs of weakness, rather than strength. To have averaging impatience process in tolerance. To be hammer,
so when we talk about tolerance, tolerance does not mean giving in, and tolerance also is a true tolerance comes when you confront with an opponent toward which you do have the capacity to retaliate if you want, but you don't give in to that emotion. Whereas if it is a case where you simply don't have the capacity to retaliate, then that is a case of weakness. That's not true tolerance, because you can't, even if you want to, retaliate.
So our tolerance towards Chinese, whether true tolerance or not, is questionable.
How can genuine love and compassion be long-lasting when in many Buddhist societies, for example, Tibet, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Cambodia, there was and there is distressing conflict and people with power controlling the population with fear?
Obviously, you see, in Buddhist countries, the entire population, surely, you see, not genuine Buddhist. That's obvious. And also, even as a Buddhist, you see, unless there's some constant effort, it's a serious practice, just as killing oneself as a Buddhist, and that, you see, no guarantee that that person be a tolerant or something, compassionate. In fact, I was told, I think the Pol Pot of Cambodia, I think one time, the Cambodian monk, and then also the terrible, you see, the leader of Mongolia, I forgot his name. I forgot his name. Kasa. Sugibod Mare. Sugibod Nibati. He also failed, remember. So in any way, the leader of Mongolia, I think during 30s, 40s, you see that Chöbelsa, yes, Chöbelsa. Now I remember. Chöbelsa. No, he also a monk previously. Then I think 100% of the degree specialization.
I think it's called, it's a U-turn.
Oh, complete. So it seems, I think the Buddhist monk, like myself, if turns something wrong, I think become very dangerous.
When ignorance is transcended and karma purified, why do appearances continue to manifest? Marigopang? Sevenas?
Sevena.
Tadunaho Karsin Degores.
That the less as name do. Nyumu was Savasangi, now the Gariamare. Nyumu Paja the Java Gasona, any rangune tada chuji su na tada trebe na yonsol garu gaji.
According to Buddhist scripture and Buddhist explanation, just total elimination of the afflictive emotions and thoughts and delusions alone does not lead to the cessation of dualistic appearances. In order to attain a state where there is no dualism, so far as one's own perspectives is concerned, in addition to the delusions, one must also be able to gain sort of total elimination of even the propensities and imprints left by the delusory experiences.
So that is the Buddhahood, stage of Buddhahood, state of Buddhahood. There, from Tathagata's one's own kasoda,
one's own perspective.
You see, no, that no
so there is no duality so far as the Buddha's own perception is concerned. However, when out of compassionate motive, a compassionate intention, when Buddha engages in activities aimed at helping others, of course Buddha has to participate in the conventions of the world. Please, can Your Holiness advise and clarify why you do not agree with the practice of the Dhamma protector, Doji Shukden, when it has been practiced and relied upon for over 1,000 years by a pure lineage, including your own spiritual guides, and at your own admittance, you have relied upon the Dhamma protector Doji Shukden yourself in the past in one of your own books.
This is, I think, rather complicated. I think the best thing is you should take more research and listen with various points of view. Now you see my position is like this. Yes, it is true. You see, the early part of my life, I also practiced that. You see, due to some other factor, and mainly due to my own junior tutor. Then about 20 years ago, I had some experience. Then finally, through some spiritual investigation, and the indication was very clear. I should stop completely. Then also, I stopped. Meantime, I also informed or reported to my junior tutor all these, events. Then my junior tutor, in spite his own practice, this protector, he fully agree. Now there must be some reason. So now, as far as Dalai Lama is concerned, now must stop. Now he is endorsed. So still I feel now that's my deep satisfaction. So then, but at that time, I kept quiet. I know, some people may get uncomfortable if that situation I speak out. But then, after I think 3 or 4 years, this is some
publications,
conflict between sect due to some publication. Then that situation compelled on me speak out. Then I speak out. That I think about 18 years ago. I think 17, 18 years ago. Then many Tibetans listen or take notice seriously. But some people, you see, they not much have attention about my suggestion, my advice. But you see, I since then, you see, from time to time, whenever I had, you see, what's a major teaching, I repeated this, the negative consequences about, you see, this practice. What is negative consequences? Number one, Tibetan Buddhist teaching. Now many Western scholars, Buddhist scholars, now well known, the Tibetan Buddhist tradition is very profound as a tradition. Now that profound as a tradition, now there is danger to degenerate, eventually become a worshipper, spirit worshipper. I think that's a great tragedy. And for that, even if it's a state oracle, they worship state oracle, to state oracle with some kind of attitude of almost refugee attitude, then you see that actually that person no longer can be considered as a Buddhist. So this is number one. Second, my whole approach is promotion of non-sectarian, and particularly among the Tibetan Buddhist four lineage, Nyingma, that is Nyingma, Kagyu, Kilu, Sakya. I'm promoting the old teaching practice simultaneously. So you see the tradition of the Shungden practitioner in the Sajya tradition and the Kilu tradition. In the Kilu tradition, they consider if you touch, even you keep in your room one Nyingma scripture, or this is a protector, will harm or will punish on you. That's the, they believe. So you see, the practice of Shungden not go well with my attempt of promotion of non-sectarian. This is the second. The third, the Shungden history, not 1,000 years, only 300 years. During 300 years, they accept only last 6 decades, about 60 years. Now this is a practice somehow more propagated. Before that, you see, last 300 years, out of 300 years, about 60 years. Otherwise, they long, more than 240 years. You see, Dorje Shungden practice remain very local. And people consider local deity. And you see, both tradition, Kilu tradition, Sajya tradition, there are few minority, you see, practice this. So it's a long 300 years. You see, the many great masters of Kilu tradition, many of them reject this. Now, for example, the teacher of 7th Dalai Lama rejected, you see, this deity. And in fact, the containing name,
in fact, dismantled the shrines to this protector which were in Ganden Monastery and expelled the practice of that from Ganden Monastery.
So that story written in the autobiography of Changja Rilpe Dorje, the one important disciple of 7th Dalai Lama. It's available. Then, because of these factors, and also, you see, the very beginning of Shungden, during 5th Dalai Lama, there was conflict between Dalai Lama and the other Lama. So the very beginning of the story, there some conflict with Dalai Lama. So last, except me, the whole past Dalai Lama, since 5th Dalai Lama, no contact with this protector. In fact, 13th Dalai Lama put great restriction on this practice. And the very person, the very Lama, who promoted this, who propagated this, Pabongar Buche, 13th Dalai Lama asked him should not propagate. And he put this question, the
third Dalai Lama asked Pabongar Rinpoche not to propagate this, and in fact said that by doing so, Pabongar Rinpoche would be going against the basic precepts of taking refuge in the three jewels.
Then Pabongar Rinpoche replied to 13th Dalai Lama, now in future I will no practice. I promise I will no longer.
I will stop to practice this.
So that also in the biography of Pabongar Rinpoche, which published in Lhasa, the copy is available. So that these are the stories. So therefore, you see, I thought it is my responsibility to make clear what is the negative consequences. Whether people listen or not, it is up to them. So that's about Shungten. Now I would like to say some of as a practitioner here, don't too much emotion feeling. And cool down. Then we can discuss. And most important, you investigate thoroughly, with patience, with calmly. That's important. Just one-sided information is dangerous.
How do women fit into the hierarchical model of the Buddhist tradition, that is the spiritual and the political leadership? Could there be a female Dalai Lama? And the second question is how capable are Westerners to truly grasp